process, and I know you've been working on this in the Texas legislature, I could spell better in the 5th grade than students graduating from high school. I read the paper and it just galls me, the grammar and the misspelling that I see. Plus the fact that nobody in my grandchildren's age group, my great-grandchildren haven't quite got there yet, but nobody in that age range knows anything about the history of the United States. It is terribly pathetic.
And citizenship, whatever happened to being a good citizen? I mean, those things, you know, those are almost. It seems to me that we need to be back in doing those things that we learned. You can't make a student understand or learn unless you have discipline. And right now, there is no discipline. I have a friend who told me that they were going to give a speech to a high school class, and he was, you know, a little apprehensive. It was in the south part of Dallas, and he said, you know, and he was African American. We're not talking about somebody that was going in that was not like them. He was very pleased to be asked because he's a very successful business. He was very pleased to be able to go and share that with them. He was even going to try to find some young people that he could bring on board and take around and mentor. They didn't sit quiet enough for him to get to speak. He was so angry about it. He said, I can't just talk to the teacher because she doesn't have control. I'm going to the superintendent. And I'm going to talk to the school board and say, how do you expect these young people to learn if no one has the ability to discipline anymore? Yes, sir.
Is there talk about a voucher system?
Yes. We always talk about vouchers. I'm a huge proponent for vouchers. We do not have right now, in my opinion, the opportunity for vouchers for a variety of reasons. We don't have unions, quote unquote, in teachers' groups. They are organizations, quote unquote. They're unions. And a lot of people listen to what they have to say. They care about their union. They care about their groups. And what they tend to do is have groupthink. And so rather than say, what's in the best interest of the students, what's in the best interest of the child, it is always, no, we don't want to do it. Now, Washington, D.C. has a great voucher program. Great voucher program. And it's been going great. There's an Asian American woman who came there from New Hampshire, I think, or someplace, like, oh no, Colorado, and is doing an excellent job. And everybody says that the results are very good. And we've been waiting to see those results. I was told 2 days ago, Bill Bennett, you all know Bill Bennett, Secretary of Education, and Margaret Spellings, also Secretary of Education, one under Reagan, one under Bush, are both on Team Shapiro. They both agreed to help me in my campaign because they believe like I do. We've got to reform education in this country. And we all believe in vouchers. Not because we want them to go to private schools. We want them to go to schools to compete. We want the public schools to have to compete for that student. Rather than just take it for granted, I'm going to have 1,000 freshmen start in high school next week. And don't care about what that means. So vouchers are a very important part of what we're doing. It doesn't look like they're going to allow Washington, D.C. to continue with their vouchers. Bill Bennett told me this 3 days ago, last Friday actually. He said the Obama administration is getting involved in the voucher program, and he's very fearful that they're going to turn it out. So stay tuned for that one. Yes, ma'am.
Recently in our local paper, there was a chairman of the school board in Texas, and Perry recommended one person.
Done.
They turned him down was the reason because he believes in creation.
Well, it was a whole series of things. And it was, you know who turned him down? The Democrats. Because we only have 19 in the Senate, it takes 11 to block someone. They had 12, they all voted the same. It was a Republican versus a Democrat issue.
Well, my experience with great grandkids in school, they're just being taught to go green.
Right now, you're absolutely right. As if that's the most important thing we can teach right now. And that's all they talk about. You're right. You're right. Yes, sir, Ken.
You know,
people don't understand the issues. You know, many years ago, Judy and I understood what AARP was. There's probably some people in here that love it, but I'll tell you, yesterday Glenn Beck nailed it.
Glenn Beck and Newt Gingrich are my two favorites.
But he nailed it.
What did he say?
Because that guy was the head of their legislative part of it. He could not tell you what their program was. He didn't. They were endorsing Obama's health plan. He didn't know what it was. He didn't know about elderly people being counseled for end of life. He didn't know anything about limiting treatment or any of this kind of stuff. He sat there and he was amazed. He didn't know a thing.
And he was the one that were asking questions.
That's right. And many years ago, whenever I got to be 55, I wrote a letter to them, never send me any more mail. I said, I'm done. And I got a nasty letter back, and I was glad I did because it made me feel like I made the right decision. But I really think that people they're not engaged as to the issues, like what you're talking about today, cap and trade. Well, Michael Jackson died during cap and trade, and nobody paid any attention to it. It affects every person in this room, their grandchildren, everybody.
Absolutely.
And they're more interested in Michael Jackson and his doggone kids than everybody else than what it's going to, how it's going to affect you. And it's going to affect everybody in the state of Texas. You cannot, in the world for that matter, and we're the only ones doing this kind of stuff. This guy is trying to change every bit of our everyday life, regardless of what you believe in.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. All the more reason we need to speak out for that very reason. You're absolutely right. Yes, sir.
I want to thank you. I teach 8th grade science. I taught Mesquite for 9 years.
Great.
I'm teaching in Range now.
Good for you. Range used to be in my district.
Anyway, global warming, cap and trade, we get into it, and I just throw the issues. I say, here's this, and I let the kids decide and talk. And they'll naturally line up on the conservative side. I'm not saying Democrat or Republican. I'm saying here's the issues, here's this side, here's this side. And it's amazing what the kids will do. But one thing that scared me in Mesquite was how many of those kids are dependents. They live a life of dependence. Their parents do. And it's so hard to break that cycle. I remember having this conversation about a year ago. One of the kids said, well, the president, it's been 2 or 3 years ago, the president, he's supposed to be looking out for us. And I said, no, go read your Constitution. It's not a nanny state, and it's not what the government is for. We, this country, was built on trying to get government out of our lives, and they just looked like they had never heard.
My favorite expression, if you ever want to use it, it's not original. It actually came from Phil Graham. And he said there's 2 kinds of people in this country. There's those that are in the wagon and those that are pulling the wagon. And when we start having more people in the wagon than pulling the wagon, we got a problem. And Houston, we got a problem. That was I had a better kid. I can say that. Yes, sir.
As we brought up the energy bill, that 1,400-page bill that nobody had really read, I am amazed that all they mentioned was cap and trade. Nobody that I've ever heard has mentioned $1 billion to replace 20 million mobile homes for low-income people. Nobody has mentioned the national building code, where building inspectors will have to inspect your home before you sell it to see if it's green enough.
And decide if your light bulbs are the right kind of light bulbs. It's pathetic.
And it mentions in that code, it's on PDF, you can do a search, it mentions California 39 times. California codes, in my humble opinion, codes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're right. That's part of what Ken is saying. People don't really understand. All we really hear is the word cap and trade. Well, okay, so they're going to cap it and then they're going to trade for somebody else's carbon, and that doesn't sound so bad. You are absolutely right. You start looking at what these issues are, it is Big Brother right in your house.